All right. This is Craig LeBlanc again with the Daily Parks and Rec Show. We have some special guests for y'all. Chris Cotten, the director of Parks and Recreation over in Kansas City, Missouri, and Mr. Bill and John, who are both have a wonderful story that they're going to tell us. And Chris is going to tell us something that their Parks and Recreation is doing for their community. And can't wait to dive into this one. This is going to be an awesome episode. But Chris, thank you so much, and Bill and John for y'all's time today. How are y'all doing?
Pretty good.
Good. Yeah, thanks for having us. We're excited to be here.
Yeah, thank y'all so much for coming on. Chris, if you want to maybe tell us a little bit of background about you and what's going on in Kansas City. I know y'all have a ton of stuff, and then you can roll right into what's going on with Bill and John at the Hope Lodge.
Yeah, well, everybody watching this podcast obviously are Kansas City Chiefs fans. So, we got a big game on Sunday against the Bills. So we're excited about that. And that's kind of the focus of a lot of focus of the community right now is Sunday's game. 5:30, if you didn't know the kickoff time, just so you're aware of that.
I'm sure everyone knows. Y'all need to send me a jersey so I can wear it on the next podcast.
Yeah, we'll have to do that. We'll do that. But no, we got a lot of things going on in Kansas City. We just finished a master plan over all 10 community centers. We've done a master plan over our aquatic center. So we're really trying to rebuild the department. We've had a lot of financial challenges, like most park and rec departments over the last couple of years. We got a lot of things going, but the particular reason I have John and Bill here today is just to talk about, when you and I talked a while ago, we talked a little bit about passion projects and things that we can do. And so in my career, I've always noticed that cities do a lot of things for a lot of different what's considered minority groups or at-risk groups. But in all of my years in this profession, I've never seen anybody really reach out to work with the American Indian, Native American community. And so I was fortunate enough to meet John and Bill in an event. I'll let them talk about that. And my meeting with them kind of got the wheels in motion for a project where we have our big park in Kansas City is called Swope Park. And at one time it had a very large summer camp, overnight summer camp, residential camp that went on from the early 1900s, continued as a day camp into the 70s and 80s, and eventually kind of died off. And we had one of the dining halls had been more or less abandoned. And so it was completely covered in honeysuckle growth all around it. And as I met with the fellas, I said, hey, what if we repurpose this facility as a place where all Native Americans can come together, and then individual tribes can have a place to meet. And also we have 8 acres of land that surround this facility. So we're looking to eventually let them develop areas in the park that kind of can tell that way of life or that history of that particular tribe 200-300 years ago, however far back they want to go. So that's kind of the overview, but I'll let John and Bill talk more about it as what their vision is.
Yeah, and who would you like to start off with, Bill or John? Which one of y'all like to go first?
I'll start off.
Okay, Bill. Yeah, go ahead and introduce yourself, a little bit about your background.
John Learned, an enrolled member of the Cheyenne and Arapaho tribes of Oklahoma, big Kansas Jayhawk, and Kansas City Chiefs fan. We were been working with the Kansas City Chiefs for the last 12 years as a partnership on how to do things that they've been doing in the past, how to do them proper. And one of the things that we accomplished was that they banned the headdress there at all their events. And so
now, what is that? Can you describe that for the community that may not know?
Headdress? Mm-hmm. Well, a headdress is earned. All the feathers that you wear are earned from deeds and things that you've accomplished over your life. And what we were offended by was that dominant society didn't know anything about what those sacred what it meant to us. It was very special and sacred, and things were earned. They weren't just thrown on. And when I talked to Mark Donovan years ago, we had a good discussion. we started our partnership, and from there, we've had a lot of Indians saying, "Hey, can we come to Arrowhead? Can we meet? Can we share some of our culture, some of our ideas with you?" And so what made sense to us was that we needed a place. And we had looked around, we have talked to several places about possibly getting a location. And then the opportunity came to start our Chamber of Commerce, and that's what we did. And during our first meeting, we had a grand opening or grand announcement, however you want to put it, down at Union Station. And that's when Chris came with the opportunity to see some of these visions that we've had come to life. And so we visited the property. It's a beautiful lodge built back in the day. And so we have looking at renovating. We've got our groups together. We've got our contractor. And the vision is to have people learn about Indians. One of the things that I've always talked to people about is where do you learn about America, true Americans, American Indian? Where do they teach that in school? Do they have any programs that dominant society could learn about? Simple things like the headdress and face paint and stuff like that. And this will give us an opportunity to work with the city and work with a larger group of people that are interested in the history of America, because we are true Americans. And this is the history of our country. And so we're excited to be able to talk about and share with and maybe bust some myths on things. The tribal leaders that I've talked to, from the Seminole in Florida to the Northern Arapaho in Wyoming, my tribe in Oklahoma City, we're excited about getting something put together to where people can come and learn about things. That's kind of where we are. We're just at the very infancy. Yeah.
Well, I appreciate you coming on the show and sharing that with us. I know my mom used to take me to we had a local, I think it was a Choctaw. I was so young. And so when Chris started telling me his background and stuff, I remember growing up, and I would attend some of these, I guess powwows is what they would call them here.
Mm-hmm.
And that was the only place I ever got to learn about my heritage. So anything y'all can do, anything we can help to get the word out to, anything educational around that, I'd love to have y'all on the show again to maybe tell a little bit more about what's going on over there, especially with this new Hope Lodge coming up. How close are y'all to finishing that, or what's the timeline on that?
We are just getting started. There's we need to get our architect over there, and then permits need to be pulled, and we figure we'll get started in the next couple of weeks. The weather has been obviously challenging here. I've had some health issues, and our contractor, he was in a car accident just last week. So that's kind of put us behind a little bit, but we're looking forward to getting started. Once we start, I don't think it's going to take that long, because the building is in really great shape for sitting idle for almost 20 years, a decade. Yeah. So
I can't wait to see that thing coming out.
Yeah. I again, our programs are going to be developed. We're talking with other tribes. There's people that can come in and share their stories, and we'd like to get things started with having for young kids, to come in and start learning about Indians. One of the things, and I know I'm kind of rambling here a little bit, but one of the things people don't understand is that Kansas City, their city leadership over the years was influenced and through the American Indian program that the Mickasay group here in town. It's part of the Boy Scouts that was started back almost 100 years ago. And one of the things that I think is important for people to understand, it all ties in. We're like a big circle, as they say, the circle of life. The Mickasay, who learned, they have a program for Indians, or their program is based on the Northern Arapaho teaching of young men. H.R. Bartle, when he became friends with Chief Lone Bear and the family there at Riverton, he was impressed by the way that they taught their young men to become leaders and to be productive in our Indian culture. And he saw that, and he brought those teachings with him, and that's what the Mickasay do. And if you go through the leadership over the years, they were influenced by the teachings of the Arapaho, and the Shoshone and the Sioux, because that's the teachings that the Mickasay use. And I've started working with them, and we've gone to the Northern Arapaho probably a dozen times. And they're starting a partnership with the tribe there. And I'd like to have our partnership with the lodge connected, because a lot of the city leaders, people that you would recognize, like Cliff Ellick, who was a president, CEO of Cerner, he was a Mickasay. He went through that program. And if you go through a lot of the business leaders here in Kansas City and before, they all had gone through that program, which I think is important to know, that the development of these gentlemen came with the exposure to American Indian teachings as young kids. And we'd like to do the same thing here. So we're excited about the opportunity.
Yeah, well, fantastic. I'd like you to keep us posted on your journey as it develops. So Bill, how are you involved in this as well?
Well, about 6 years ago, John asked us to come down. I have 20 years in the military, Air Force, and I have a Native American color guard here in Kansas City, and John asked us to go down and be on the field for the Chiefs. So I knew him from that, and then he was kind of not feeling well, and I seen him running around out here in the cold weather about 6 years ago. And I asked him if he felt good. He says no, and I said, well, I'd already talked to my wife about putting John up at the house. We had an extra bedroom. So we went and got his stuff out of the hotel and picked him up, and well, he's been at the house ever since. So, but it's a place to work out of right now for us. And my wife and I'm Choctaw and Lakota. My dad was Lakota, and my mom was Choctaw. And I have my grandkids. We've taught them how what they should be doing as far as Indian children are. And they dance at the powwows. They do work at the powwows. My granddaughter was 6 years as a princess, and for different groups. And she never set aside and just sit there during a powwow. She actually did the work. She went out and sold tickets or cleaned up or dumped trash or whatever as a princess. So she had to work. So finally, her last year, she says, I'd like to go to a powwow and enjoy it. So she stopped that. But she's a very good dancer. My wife is Cherokee and Irish. And like I said, we're working with John. We've always wanted to help the Indian community out a lot. And with John, we've been doing that. So we've been doing pretty good. John's a good leader on that. He knows a lot of people. That's the main basis for that.
Fantastic. Man, Cherokee and Irish sounds like a fun combination to be married.
My wife said the only thing that kept those two people apart was an ocean.
Yeah, that's about it. So Chris, how did you get originally, involved in this and connected with Bill and John?
Well, my lineage is I'm an enrolled member of the Choctaw Nation of Oklahoma. But my lineage is Choctaw, Cherokee, French traders from the 1700s, 1800s. So I'm adopted. I was adopted out of an orphanage in Oklahoma, and then I have an adopted sister who came out of the same orphanage. Her background is she's Sac Fox Cheyenne. And as kids growing up in Oklahoma, products of an orphanage, we kind of kept to ourselves a lot. My earliest memory, and we had talked about this, my earliest memory of racism is we lived in a neighborhood in Tulsa off of 71st and Harvard. And there was a little neighborhood park. And, back in the 70s, you weren't as worried about your kids getting abducted as today. And my mom and dad would always let us go down to this little park and play. But I always had to take my sisters. And I was down there one day and with my friends and my sister, and we were doing the thing that kids do where everybody loads up on the merry-go-round and somebody spins it as fast as you can. And there's mass carnage as everybody flies off the merry-go-round. And when I got up off the ground, I was looking for my sister, and she was across the street. And she was being bullied by some of the neighborhood kids. And I didn't really know what was going on, but I went over there and I said, well, what's going on? Why are you picking on my sister? And they're like, well, this isn't your sister. This is just some Indian kid. And I said, no, it's my sister. We're adopted and I'm Indian too. And they said, oh, well, great. And then they said, we won't pick on her anymore. We're just going to beat you up. And so that was my first taste of racism. That was my first fist fight I'd ever been in. And my sisters ran away and they got my dad. My dad came down. And so that night after I got back home, I had a bloody nose. My lips were split open. And as my mom was cleaning me up, she explained to me that I had gotten beat up because my sister's skin was brown. And that really stuck with me pretty much my whole life. And so growing up in Oklahoma, where I went to high school, you just kind of kept it quiet. But I'd always, I'm obviously very light skinned. And so I always didn't have any problem in white culture. And, but I was always of the mind that if I was ever in a place where I could help the American Indian, I would do so when things just kind of aligned here in Kansas City with this project.
Yeah, fantastic. It's wonderful to see how things come full circle. A childhood memory, something you should experience all the way from adoption, understanding your culture, and then bringing that to today where you can really make a meaningful contribution back to something from your past. And the culture is so strong as far as Indian culture, at least when I went. I don't know if y'all ever heard of a guy named Bob Moline. He's my uncle. It's crazy how I look like the French side of my family, and I've got other people that they walk through the door and you think they're full-blooded American Indian, but we're the same amount. Mm-hmm. and my uncle, he's dead now. He's a very accomplished artist that did nothing but paint the American Indians his entire life. And so I grew up with that all around me. But it's great to see when I go back to Fort Worth and places like that there seem to be so much more Indian culture around there. And I know we had a lot of that here in Louisiana, but we just don't have as much of it, it seems, that Texas and Oklahoma have, and or even where y'all are at up in Missouri. So I wonder how is the Indian culture in y'all's area? What's the population wise?
Well, from as I understand of the census from a few years back, there's about 22,000 Indians that live here in Kansas City. But we're real close to Lawrence, Kansas, where Haskell Indian Nations is. So there's a large population in Lawrence of American Indians, and it's pretty good. I mean, it's not like Oklahoma. And where you have about 39 tribes or something like that. But we have 4. They're all in Kansas. There's not any tribes in Missouri that are federally recognized. But it's funny, one of the things when I started working with the chiefs about 13 years ago, one of the things that I had our first event at Arrowhead, and we had 14 tribal leaders come in, and one of the tribal leaders' husband, who played basketball at Kansas, we were talking, and he said, "You know, John, what I like everything you guys are doing here. You're putting the word out and talking about our culture and stuff." But he goes, "You know what I like the best about all this is you look Indian." He says, "John, I go to these meetings and they all look like a bunch of white guys sitting around." And I just laughed because that did stick with me. I never thought about it like that, but that was one of the things. And seeing Chris and my brother, and they're all light skinned, and you can't tell, and that was one of the things when I talked with the chiefs. I said, first, I'm not going to ask you for any money, because if we do, we're paid off Indians. We're working for you. And second, I'm going to ask you not to, we're going to do what you guys already do. And Mark Donovan asked, "Well, what's that?" And I said, "Well, you do a pregame, November, let's do American Indian Heritage Game." So we've been doing that now for the past 13 years. And one of the things that they were happy about was that they, as they say, they believed what they were reading in the paper, that a lot of Indians were against their emblems and stuff. I said, "No, it's not true at all. It's a small group." And they were impressed when we had 14 tribal leaders. And now we get calls all the time from tribes around the country wanting to come to the game. "What are you guys doing? Is there something?" And the chiefs have reached out into Indian country. We've done things up with the Northern Arapaho, and we're building bridges here with the local tribes, the Iowa tribe, the Kickapoo, the Sac and Fox, and the Potawatomi here in Kansas. So it's funny, a lot of people are interested in American Indian, and they should be.
Yeah, now just to help educate a little the community around this, when I went to Oklahoma, there's, like you said, there's a lot of tribes recognized there, and then, like you said, in Kansas City, even though well, y'all are a border town, pretty much right on the Kansas border, but you're saying there's not much in Missouri?
No, there's no federally recognized tribes in Missouri.
Okay, so the federally recognized tribes, you said there's what, 4 in Kansas and many more in Oklahoma. Where are all the other high concentrations throughout the country?
Well, the highest would be is in Oklahoma, and I would think the other would be California or New Mexico, Arizona. Those are that come to mind. I mean, like in Nebraska, I think there's 3 tribes. In Wyoming, I believe there's just the 2. Montana, there's about 5. But in Oklahoma, there's well over 30, and there's 500 and 540 some federally recognized tribes in the country.
Wow.
And there's other tribes that are trying to get federal recognition. And
now, what do they constitute, like a tribe?
That's a good question. I've never really studied any of that, so I really couldn't tell. I just know that growing up in Oklahoma, some of the racism that Christopher faced, I did too. But I didn't. My dad was finishing up at KU when I was a little kid, so I lived in Lawrence. In Lawrence, everybody went to school together. Everybody used the same bathroom. Everybody did all that. And this is when I'm like about 8 years old, and we moved to Oklahoma, and I'm thinking it's the same same way. And so we're in this department store and had to go to the bathroom, and I knew where it was. I could read the sign, and I told Mom, so I'm gonna go to the bathroom. And I took off, but then she grabbed me and she says, "Oh no, honey, no, they have a special bathroom for you." And I go, "Oh," thinking, hey, gold toilets and and everything. But what it was colored only or Indian only bathroom. I had never experienced it. And this is in the early 60s. So that was that was my first bout of saying, hey, well, this is different down here. And you look back, we've come a long way. I've seen a lot. And in all Indian cultures, your older people are supposed to be looked up to, and because they've lived through it, they've seen things. And when I was young, I never thought I'd be in this position, but yeah, I mean, things have changed so much, and we're losing a lot as American Indians. We're losing the opportunities to talk about our culture, to teach dominant society about Indians, and that's when I asked Mark Donovan, our first meeting. I said, he had a list of things that people were squawking about, and we went over it. And then I asked him, I said, Mark, when was the last time you talked to Indians? He said, Johnny, never. I said, well, that's your problem. You're doing things that you think, hey, this is okay, because we did it in the past. And this is what I remind people, because I lived through the 60s. It was a white man's world. Whatever they decided, whatever they wanted to do, they did. Indians didn't have a voice. Women didn't have a voice. Black America, red America, we really didn't have a voice until the 60s.
Yeah. So what's something about your culture that you feel like, just as an example, that stands out of something that's important, that maybe you don't see in everyday culture, but that's something you feel like should be shared because it's maybe something you'll hold dear?
Well, that's really up to the individuals. I think they just need to understand that we're not all the same. That's another thing that we face. Everybody just lumps us in as one big group. Indians, all the Indians, they want to get rid of the mascot, or all the Indians. No, every Indian has their own voice, their own idea, and their own way that they live their lives. My problem, I think, is I know enough about my culture, but I grew up in dominant society. I went to public schools, attended the University of Kansas. I went through all the dominant societies had to offer, and during that time, I never heard anybody talk about what Indians believe. I don't. That's a hard question for me to answer, and I apologize for not.
No, and maybe even Chris or John might have an answer, but what's important to y'all in Indian culture? I know for me, it was kind of understanding that they were more in tune with the environment, more in tune with nature,
Mm-hmm.
kind of worked with what they had, and at least the ones that I connected with were super, I guess, spiritual.
Yeah.
They were connected with their ancestors, and even more they just seemed to know their family tree and where they came from.
Yeah.
More than I did from the other sides of my family. I don't know if y'all had that same experience.
Well, Chris.
Well, I think for me, it was my sister and I. It was a little different, right? Because we were adopted, and we had to, my adoptive paperwork mentions that I am what's called Black Dutch Cherokee. And if you look that up, it's really an insult. It's a slanderous term that means that you're basically light-skinned enough that you pass for white. So that really struck me when I was younger. It really bothered me. My sister, she had a pretty hard time growing up because, in typical mainstream society, when we do family pictures, people would say, oh, well, you look like your dad, even though I was a foot taller than my dad and had different, I didn't look anything like my dad, but because my skin was, I'm white, I would pass for the family. Whereas my sister would be like, oh, you poor thing. I mean, it was very disparaging to my sister. And so from an early age, I was like, well, this isn't gonna fly with me. And so I protected my sister a lot growing up. And so as we got older and we had our birth records unsealed, we were able to find out more about our heritage, to the point that both of us have met our biological parents. We both know more about our ancestry. So for me personally, when I first got a letter from the United States Department of the Interior saying, hey, you're a recognized member of the Choctaw Nation of Oklahoma, that was a big deal for me. And my sister, she's on the rolls for Sac Fox, and that was a big deal to her too. And we met as we learned more about our heritage, it should have made us happier, but it actually made us sadder, because we realized, we all of a sudden realized that we really were part of Andrew Jackson's policy on eliminating the American Indian. We're mixed, so we were never really accepted by our own people or white society, and so you just kind of learn, and you live, and you gather experiences. And my sister and I talk a lot about our heritage and how we can be agents of change and be helpful, while realizing that neither one of us were raised in traditional Native American households. Does that make sense?
Yeah, and I'd love to even maybe in in a future show dive into some of the culture that we'd like to highlight, parts of the culture that we find valuable and want to lift up. I know there's so much, and like like John said, they're not all the same. You have like 500 cultures that's just recognized, and who knows how many others that aren't recognized. And really just giving them a platform to kind of share. And I think that's kind of what I want to do with the Daily Parks and Rec show, especially since the park system that your position with Kansas City, now you just have an opportunity. Now how is the park system? Does the community kind of know what you're doing outside of?
What's really neat about that is, we have an administrative park board. So all the projects that we do run through the park board. And this went to, what was it, October?
Yeah, October. Yeah.
October, we brought it forth, and it was really interesting to me, because we had the principal chiefs of
the Iowa tribe and the Wyandotte, Kansas, and we had support from the Choctaw Nation, Cheyenne, Arapaho tribes also support. We did get letters of support from tribes around the country on this project.
So it was really exciting to see that the park board fully supported the endeavor, the project. We're making use of a facility that had been kind of lost in our system, and we have a massive park system here. 221 parks, 10 community centers, 20-something swimming pools. So for us to be able to repurpose a facility that had been neglected for so long, and find a group willing to come in and raise the money to refurbish it, the support is there, and it's excited. We're already trying to loosely talk about a ribbon cutting once we get the facility renovated, and who all we're going to invite. And we're definitely going to invite our chief of the Choctaw Nation is going to be invited. I'm sure John's going to invite.
Reggie will be here. We've got a lot of people lined up and excited about what we're doing. I talked to Chief Osceola of the Seminole tribe when they came in for our heritage game, and they're excited with us. They're going to work with us, and so what we try to do is just keep our heads down and do the right thing. That's it. We don't need to, and this is what I told the chiefs. You don't need to run to the media every time you blow your nose. Just the Indian way is to do the right thing and just do it, and don't look for accolades or anything. And that's kind of how our approach is. We've got people lined up already, and they're going to be, these tribes will be important in the development of the programs that we do here.
Now,
You
do
know,
you have a rough date timeline as far as when that ribbon cutting ceremony might be? Is that like a year from now or 6 months or what do we?
No, it'll probably be sometime this summer. It won't take that long, but we do want to make sure that, we're putting in a new kitchen there. We're getting rid of asbestos. We're putting in new windows. It's going to take some time, but once that's done, then yeah, it'll be open for business.
From a Parks and Rec programming standpoint, we always offer programs for everyone. And so when we get into some programming opportunities, obviously in order to get the youth of today to understand more about traditional Native American athletics or sports, right? One of the things that I've been hoping to get established here is to start Native American stickball. It'd be great to, this lodge is close to a small lake, so we can teach canoeing, traditional fishing. We have an archery range out there. So there's a lot of things that we can do that are back in nature. And let's be clear. Some of these kids are living in the middle of downtown Kansas City, and they haven't been in a forest in their entire life, but this lodge is in the middle of a pretty significant timbered area. So we're real excited about, as the director of parks, and this, Craig, what's recreation to one person isn't recreation to another. And so it's our job to try to offer things to everybody, so everybody feels like they have an opportunity. And so, I've done some research and I haven't found anything like the project we're getting off the ground here. I can't find any record of what we're trying to do anywhere. A lot of park departments, they do things for the different groups that need help and don't have access to things, but I haven't seen a department that's specifically tried to do something to help the American Indian.
Yeah, well, keep us posted. I'm hoping that, I don't know if I can pull it off by then, but I'm hoping to have an on-site crew with several cameramen that can go capture the footage of an in-person. We want to do this for the state associations that have their events and produce content for them. But I would love to have something like this that we can showcase how the park systems are working with, including the Indians and the tribes, and bringing their culture into the communities. And so if that gives me 5 months to get my camera crew together.
Well, we'll just have you come up, and you can just use your phone. You can just live stream it from your phone.
I definitely want to do what I can to make the event whenever y'all have. What are y'all thinking of as far as the event, the ribbon cutting? What's kind of coming to mind that y'all'd like to do?
We've one of the things that we've talked about is to have some sort of event that would coincide with the start of the football season with the Chiefs. I work pretty closely with the Chiefs, and we're thinking of having some kind of event that would work in partnership with the Chiefs. We've got some ideas, and so we will. Once we get started, it's the renovation. I'm told won't take that long. I mean, it's in great shape. We put on some windows, and we haven't resat down and looked at a timeline, but we're figuring it won't take that long. According to the contractor, he says, John, it'll probably take us about 6 months. So,
what's interesting, Craig, is we're trying to. This facility is old, and so it was hard for us to find blueprints of the facility from when it was built. I mean, we found some renovation plans from the 70s and then the 80s, but I mean, it took us forever to just find where the sewer line went to the facility. Literally the place had been just locked up and nobody had been in it for over 20 years. So you think about staff turnover, there weren't a lot of people that could answer my questions. Our archives division did an excellent job finding me things that I needed. But it's pretty, like I said, it's a great facility. It was originally an open air pavilion. And then over time, from the 1920s or 30s, it got enclosed, had the kitchen built. And then it was a full operating summer camp. One of the things that we found when we started to remove the honeysuckle around the facility is we found the original bathhouse from the summer camp that it was completely overgrown. We found a shed full of the old cots from when it was an overnight camp that had just been forgotten about. So it's really interesting, the history of that part of the park. Swope Park is one of the largest municipal parks in the country. And so there's a lot of potential there for a lot of great things to happen. So the groundbreaking or the ribbon cutting can be, I mean, as many tribes as we can get interested in participating, as many leaders. I'm definitely going to lobby and it won't be a hard lobbying effort, but I mean, to get our mayor there, our city manager there, the entire park board there. I mean, this is a pretty big deal for us. Anything we can do to teach the current generation the ways of the American Indian of the days past will just be phenomenal.
And do you think you'll be able to have like an actual powwow there where we can have some of the tribal dances and all the?
Oh, sure. Yeah, there's plenty of room there, and there's other open areas that are just down from where we are that can definitely accommodate something like that.
Yeah.
There's another picnic shelter in the area. It's called the Rocky Point Day Camp Shelter. It was originally built in the 20s and 30s as well. We had a giant ice storm here in 2002, and a bunch of trees came down on that facility and ruined it. So it was rebuilt. It had been not in use for quite some time. The ironic thing is I took the group out there to show them the facility, and it was pristine for the most part. And then not too long ago, we had another big spring storm, and a tree came down on it and smashed the roof on the current version of the shelter. So we're going to have to eventually get around to repairing that. But there's a nice area that at one time was really large around there that would be flat and open and would be great for what I would call a smaller powwow event. But it'd be definitely a way to educate as an educational resource and to give school kids, buses of school kids, an opportunity to take a look at what happened in America long before it was settled and colonized.
Well, yeah, maybe if I can get there for the event, I'd love to try to capture as much as I can and then throw that over to the editing team so that they can really capture that moment, capture the event, capture a powwow, and then, have that living in. That's one thing I love about creating video online content is has a long shelf life. You can put it up there and watch it for years. Versus attending something and nobody's really documenting what's going on. And I think this is something that we definitely want to document, not just from just the Indian culture, but also from the park systems and highlighting what kind of great stuff like this parks are doing and you're able to do with your park systems. And I think that's just a good story that I'd love to participate in telling. You have to get us some press passes for the event.
Oh man, we'll just get you right in, but you don't have to just say you're with us and you're good. I know people.
Yeah. Well, man, it was great talking with y'all. This is something I want to keep up with. Let's maybe check in with the progress in maybe 3 to 4 months, and then as y'all find out more about the ribbon cutting and has that what kind of event that's going to look like. I'd like to kind of plan to be there and document the whole thing. I think that could be something that we could help y'all with.
Oh yeah, we'd love to have you here, Craig. We'd really love to have you here. That'd be great for you to make. And you're where? You're down in Louisiana?
New Orleans.
Oh, so you just got some snow. Did you build a snowman?
Oh my gosh, we built some snowmen. Of course, we had Mardi Gras beads on them.
Yeah.
Every respectable Louisiana snowman has to have a neck full of Mardi Gras beads. And so now I think it's just a pile of Mardi Gras beads on the ground. They didn't last long.
When was the last time you guys were able to build a snowman in New Orleans?
Oh my gosh. Actually, a friend of mine from Destin, he's on the beach and it's snowing where the water's hitting at the Gulf. And so This was, I think it was maybe 200 years since we got this kind of snow.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
9 inches.
Wow, that's a lot. Yeah, we had the the fourth biggest snowfall in history in Kansas City here a couple weeks back.
Yeah.
What was it? How much did y'all get?
10.
10, 12 inches. Yeah, in like 48 hours. It was a ridiculous amount of snow.
But we have no salt, no trucks, no anything. They literally shut the whole city down, all roads, schools, businesses, grocery stores just opened back up after being closed for 4 days.
Wow.
And not a person in Louisiana knows how to drive on ice. So
Yeah, I can imagine. I can imagine.
now we did have Bourbon Street stayed open and most of the bars kept going. You just had to walk there. So New Orleans kept partying, but all essential businesses kind of closed except for the partying side of New Orleans that never stops.
Well, that's cool.
Yeah.
Well, we look forward to being down there in a couple of weeks for a big game.
Y'all coming well, obviously for the
We've got some business to take care of this weekend. If we can do that, then
are any of y'all attending?
no, it's funny. We could, but man, it's a crowd. It's the getting in and then trying to leave, sitting in the. It's easier to sit at home and watch the game than to go out there.
Well, if any of y'all are in New Orleans, please let me know your itinerary. I'd love to host y'all, show y'all around the city. I love being a tour guide, showing all the greatest unknown places in New Orleans. There's so much culture, and it's quite a unique place. Have y'all been by any chance?
I've never been down to New Orleans, no.
We when I was in college, we competed against Tulane and University of New Orleans, so I was down there for that. But it wasn't the whole New Orleans experience. But I have been to New Orleans, but not in a party capacity. Yeah,
well, let me know if y'all ever want to make a trip, and we'll make it happen.
I would appreciate that. Thank you so much.
I was stationed at Keesler.
Oh yeah, that's not too far, huh? Where's Keesler?
No. We've been to Mardi Gras.
Yeah. Well, fantastic. Well, thank y'all so much for coming on to the show. Chris, I'd love to y'all keep us posted on this whole event as it unfolds. Let's just make it part of the Parks and Rec daily show to keep everybody posted on what's going on over there.
Absolutely.
Sounds good.
Good. And then I'm going to send y'all a couple of videos that our team's working on. And that's the kind of thing I think I want to create for this event coming up, or even, and we could maybe even do something for your park system over in Kansas City.
That'd be great.
A little promo y'all can put on y'all's website or just share to try to raise awareness of everything going on at the, with the park system of Kansas City.
All right. Well, we appreciate you, Craig. We really do. Thank you so much for reaching out and hearing the story of the passion project we're working on.
Fantastic, man. Keep up the great work.
All right. We appreciate you. Take care of yourself.
Thank you.
Take care. Bye-bye. All right. So, man, what a great story that they had. Chris, thank you for bringing up John and Bill to tell us more about what they're doing. It's I tell you, that kind of stuff is what it means to be in Parks and Recreation. You just have the opportunity to include so many people, so many cultures. You'll hear a lot of people talk about inclusion. That's a big word that's constantly thrown around in Parks and Recreation. And what does that mean? Sometimes when we're building out our facilities, when we think about inclusion, we might think of a handicapped child or maybe an elderly person, but not often are we thinking about the different cultures. And so what I love about what Chris and John and Bill are working on is to really include and give a place for the Indian tribes that are in the surrounding areas of Kansas City to come and meet and have powwows, express their culture, to have a place that they can kind of call their own, right in the middle of Kansas City, Missouri, right in the middle of the park system that Chris is running. Chris Cotten, of course, for those who don't know, he is the Parks and Rec director of Kansas City, Missouri. It's a huge park system. They have like 300 employees, 221 park systems. And they have this old 20-year-old decaying abandoned facility that was, had good bones to it. It needed somebody to kind of claim it. And so that's kind of what they've done. And as he said in the episode, 6 months from now, hopefully they're doing a ribbon cutting with many of the tribal leaders there. Hopefully they have a great powwow. Hopefully the Daily Parks and Rec show is there with camera crew ready to just capture the moment and share it with the whole community. This is exactly what I'd like to do with the Daily Parks and Rec show, is to have these daily podcasts on the weekdays, but also to capture some of these events that are happening across America in our park systems, that guys like Chris are just taking the torch and just running with it, and using the facilities and embracing all the different cultures that are in his town, and making something to where the park system is kind of reaching out with open arms. I love that story of Chris when he was a young boy and his sister, and he got bullied a little bit and experienced what it's like to be part of a different culture inside of a different, maybe more dominant culture. And I think this is what the heart of inclusion is. It's not just about making your playground more accessible to people that don't have quite the mobility that we have, whether you're old or handicapped or, in some way, but also about cultures, because you've got so many cultures that are a part of your community, whether it's Hispanic, whether it's Indian, whether it's African American, anything like that. How do we cater to those? And then another great one is where Chris pointed out about how a lot of these kids are stuck in the middle of the city and they really haven't been in the woods. And a lot of his facilities have a good patch of woods around them where they can experience nature and, kind of get out the house, not be so plugged into online and stuff. So I love the work y'all are doing. Chris, Bill, John, keep up the great work. I can't wait to follow this story as it develops. And hopefully we can do some in-person footage, have our camera crew ready to go. I know I'm trying to get that. So with that being said, let me give you a little update on the show. As y'all can see, this is episode number 35. We got a great critique the other day off of LinkedIn saying that we're a little bit disjointed, a little bit unorganized and stuff. And I think that goes a lot to me doing just better show prep. And I really appreciate people just being honest about, hey, y'all seem a little disorganized in the interviews. And so that made me kind of double down on, okay, what does it mean to organize your show prep? So I've really started to do better show prep for the phone, within the phone calls, and then also trying to organize here on the back end and during the show and that kind of stuff. So appreciate all that kind of feedback. Anything you can give us that we can do better. Don't worry about protecting my feelings or anything like that. We really just want to make the show better. That's what's more important, is what we're trying to do here at the Daily Parks and Rec Show is to create a media company that highlights the entire industry of parks and recreation across America. Chris is one of the guys that we want to highlight. And this is an example of the kind of stuff he does. And this is coming all the way from a childhood experience to today, where he's, one of the great leaders in Kansas City. He's running a huge park system. And now as an adult, he's able to make an impact in his local community. So that's the kind of stories we want to tell, and we want to get better at telling them. Now, how can you help us? How can you help support the Daily Parks and Rec Show? If you need a video editor, I have got some amazing video editors that I'm working with right now. We're going to hire a couple of them full time, but we've got 6 of them that are all competing to work on helping us create great content for the Parks and Rec community. So if you would like us to make some 1 or 2 minute video about your park system somewhere here in America, reach out to me, and I'd like to have you as a project your city as a project, and we'll produce a really good 1 or 2 minute video showcasing your park system, what you do, and maybe raising awareness around your facilities, or maybe if you have a special event. So if you're a park system and you have a special event that you'd like, maybe a 1 or 2 minute video commercial for your special event. Let's say it's multiple years. It's a 10-year parade or 4th of July that's going on, and you're just trying to raise awareness. We will help you with a little promo that you can put on your Facebook page. You can put on the city's website, just something that you have, and it'll be something that we can give to y'all. That would be great right now. So if there's any city that has a special event that you want a little 60-second, 1 minute clip that we can make for you, please reach out to me. We're looking for a couple of projects. I'm hoping that I can do an in-person with Chris in about 6 months this summer. We'll see if we can pull that off. Thank y'all so much for the invite, and I'm hoping that we can pull it off to really document what's going on over there. So yes, if you want to help, let's make a video for a few cities, for a few park systems. That would be something that would, I think, we'd love to help with, and it can participate in growing the awareness around all things Parks and Rec. So, all right, this will be all for the week. Friday, hopefully everybody's got good weekend plans. Hopefully everyone is not completely frozen after this week. I will see y'all again here on Monday. We have quite a good lineup next week. I think we've got 4 interviews, lots of people that I'm doing phone calls with and bringing them on the show. Please keep the feedback coming. You're going to see a lot of our 60-second videos coming out. We should have a batch this weekend around career. So I had the 6 editors each make a video around career choice. So choosing Parks and Recreation as a career, as something that we want to get that information out there, so that young kids and students are not discovering Parks and Rec, but they're actually on purpose going to a university for a Parks and Rec degree from high school, because it's a great program the university offers, and they knew about it going in. So we want to create something that maybe a high school senior could see, that we can put on Instagram, or we can put on TikTok and put on Facebook, a lot of the places that they're consuming content, so that we can just raise awareness. Hey, did you know this university has a really good degree in Parks and Recreation, and try to educate them on what that career looks like, because it really is a great career. You just get to do awesome things. And Chris is an example of someone that we could hold up as a model. And then we have got thousands of Park and Rec professionals that we would like to hold up their career as an example of what students could be pursuing, the degrees they could be pursuing, and universities they could attend for that reason. And so that's our next batch of videos. That'll be all coming out this weekend. Any feedback y'all can give me, I would love it. We want to continue to make great stuff for the community like that. So be looking out for that. All right, so I'll be signing off. Again, this is Craig LeBlanc with the Daily Parks and Rec Show, airing live 12 noon Eastern, Monday through Friday. We will see y'all again tomorrow. Love you guys. Thank y'all for all the support. Y'all have an awesome weekend.